why do you blame the Biden administration?
Because they let them in. Are you stupid? Are you a stupid person? Because they came on a plane along with thousands of other people that shouldn't be here, and you're just asking questions because you're a stupid person.
You very likely have heard that on Wednesday, 2 National Guard members were shot by someone from Afghanistan who killed Sarah Beckwith, 20, of Summersville, West Virginia, and critically wounded Andrew Wolf of Martinsburg, West Virginia. Leadership, I'm not going to get into some long drawn out thing about leadership, but leadership is about dealing with the problems and not looking to place blame and point fingers. A lot of people out there in MAGA world are looking to blame Joe Biden for this because in September of 2021, this individual who shot allegedly, we're going to cover ourselves legally here, that committed this crime, who's been accused of committing this crime, this murder, this premeditated murder, horrendous, nonsensical, evil act. I hate nebulous words like that, but it's what it is. People are blaming Joe Biden because Joe Biden's administration entered him into the country, allowed him to come to the country. But they're ignoring the fact that Donald Trump gave this person asylum, the Trump administration. Look, it's no more Joe Biden's fault than it is Donald Trump's fault. You cannot predict certain things. We don't know what predicated the attack. We don't know what led to his mental breakdown, if there was one. We don't know if there was motivations of religion or politics or we don't know. We don't know. So I want to get into this because in this video, we're going to be talking about asylum and Donald Trump's refusal to even face the question. He's asked the question in a press conference yesterday that was supposed to be about answering the questions from the military on Thanksgiving or something, some live stream thing they did. And Donald Trump starts attacking a reporter. You're a stupid person. You're stupid. This comes on the heels of him calling a reporter piggy and another reporter ugly for just simply asking questions. Now, Donald Trump is not a leader. He is the president, but he's not a leader. He's a dipshit who wants to enrich himself and engorge himself on power and money. That's who he is. But in moments like this, it should be a clarion call to MAGA world, to people who claim to love their country, who claim to be patriots. This should be the wake-up call that in moments where we are desperate for leadership, desperate for someone to comfort the nation, give us some solace, some ease in our spirits, in our countenance, in our worries for dangers. We've got Donald Trump. Watch this first clip, and then we'll talk about it on the other side. Then I got 2 others because it's remarkable, this moment yesterday. We'll just leave it at that, and we'll cover it after the clip.
Good to see you. Thank you so much. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. You too.
A question about this tragic shooting in Washington, D.C. U.S. officials say that the suspect worked very closely with the CIA in Afghanistan for years, that he was vetted, and the vetting came up clean.
He went cuckoo. I mean, he went nuts. And that happens, too. It happens too often with these people. You see them. But look, this is how they come in. This is how they're standing on top of each other. And that's an airplane. There was no vetting or anything. They came in unvetted. And we have a lot of others in this country. We're going to get them out. But they go cuckoo. Something happens to them.
Your DOJ IG just reported this year that there was thorough vetting by DHS and by the FBI of these Afghans who were brought into the U.S. So why do you blame the Biden administration?
Because they let them in. Are you stupid? Are you a stupid person? Because they came on a plane along with thousands of other people that shouldn't be here, and you're just asking questions because you're a stupid person. And there's a law passed that it's almost impossible not to get them out. You can't get them out once they come in. and they came in, and they were unvetted, they were unchecked, there were many of them, and they came in on big planes, and it was disgraceful. And if you look, you'll see there was a law passed. It makes it almost impossible not to let them in, not to certify them, so to speak, once they come in. And they came in, and they shouldn't have come in. And frankly, the whole thing was a mess. The whole Afghanistan situation was a mess. It should have never taken place. If we're going to go out, and we would have gone out because I had everybody ready to go, we were going to go out with strength and dignity and precision, and we would have left for Bagram, and we would have kept Bagram, by the way, because of its very close relationship to China and where they make their missiles. But when you let the people come in by the thousands and thousands and thousands, they made a terrible mistake. But they were incompetent. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. President, thank you.
First of all, none of this is, it is so frustrating to watch these and think about these things. And you don't have to be a political commentator to come to the conclusion that this is not normal. This is not good. This gets us nowhere. There was absolutely no vetting whatsoever. Then why'd you give him asylum? And then when that question gets asked, actually, your DOJ just reported that there was thorough vetting of Afghans who were brought into the country. So why do you blame Biden? Are you stupid? Are you a stupid person? You're just asking questions because you're a stupid person. Says the President of the United States in a moment of national grief, because he doesn't want anybody saying, well, they wouldn't be dead. Sarah Beckwith, Andrew Wolf is clinging to life right now, but she would not be dead if you hadn't done this publicity stunt. Because DC's a war zone. It's just a crime-ridden hellhole. It's not. Like any other city, there's crime, of course. But the crime did not rise to the level of deploying the United States military onto the streets of the city in which I live and dine in and shop in and walk through at night on a regular basis. This is all about blame and deflection, which isn't leadership. If you screw up, a leader takes their lumps, admits to the mistake, and moves on into the future, having learned from those mistakes. Donald Trump isn't capable of that. There is no prospect or possibility of learning from a mistake on Donald Trump's part, because he will never admit that a mistake happened. You can't learn and grow if you can't admit to the mistake. Donald Trump ran away from the questions. He was asked another time about asylum, and he abruptly ends this press conference, I guess, and moves on with his Thanksgiving Day.
Go ahead.
I have a question about this asylum claim that is being floated. Of course, you just detailed that this suspect was flown in under the Biden administration.
Yeah.
But was he granted asylum under your administration?
When it comes to asylum, when they're flown in, it's very hard to get them out. No matter how you want to do it, it's very hard to get them out. But we're going to be getting them all out now. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. President. Thank you, sir.
But we're getting them all out now. Donald Trump's response to this isn't to deal with a complex issue with complexity. It's to deal with it with callousness, with fear, with hatred, with bigotry, with ginning up conspiracy. But chief among them attributes would be callousness. And even when he was asked earlier in the press conference about whether or not he's going to attend the funeral of the 20-year-old victim in the shooting, Sarah Beckwith, he couldn't muster a decent, compassionate, empathetic response. He rambled about the election results, and he loves the people of West Virginia because they voted him into office. Donald Trump isn't going to shed a single fucking tear for Sarah Beckstrom, excuse me. He doesn't care. He's not torn up about the fact that a decision he made led to her death, was involved with her death. It's certainly not fully responsible for it, but hadn't he dispatched for a publicity stunt the National Guard here, she would be alive. That's a fact. And here he is being asked, are you going to attend her funeral? And not being able, it's not that he can't muster it, because it's not there to muster. He's a sociopath, a psychopath. He cannot empathize. He cannot put himself into the shoes of someone else. He can't imagine what it would be like to feel emotion, the weight of what his decision has brought upon a family. Watch this.
It's in the early stages, obviously, but do you plan to attend Sarah's funeral?
I haven't thought about it yet, but it certainly is something I could conceive of. I love West Virginia. You know, I won West Virginia by one of the biggest margins of any president anywhere. And it's, you know, these are great people. I love the people of West Virginia. I love the people of our country. But I haven't given it any thought, but it sounds like something I could do, yeah. It's very raw.
Yeah, of course.
Do you plan to attend Sarah's funeral? I haven't thought about it yet. You haven't thought about it yet? But it's certainly something I can conceive of. Well, that's good. That means your cognition is intact in this moment, that you can conceive of going to a funeral. I love West Virginia. You know, I won West Virginia by one of the biggest margins of any president anywhere. Donald Trump is making her death, her murder, about himself and the election he won. And by what margin he won that election. A woman is dead. Her family devastated. All surrounding the holidays, a time of warmth and giving and family and love and connection. And Donald Trump's talking about a fucking election. And what margin he won. And that's why he loves the people of West Virginia. He hasn't even thought about whether he will attend her funeral. And MAGA, cheers, they love this fucking mutt. What have we done? As a nation, what have we done? Who are we as a country? What have we become as a country that this absentee landlord of a president has been granted immeasurable power? The worst person among us is president of the United States. Not a simply flawed character, not a guy who faces tough decisions and sometimes doesn't make the right call. No. It's instinctive in him. It is coded in his fucking DNA to do the wrong thing based on the wrong motivations. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. Got a little heavy.
The faith of this country, the Christian faith, the prayers. I would ask for prayers for our National Guardsmen.
Excuse me, Mr.
Appeals to heaven for our National Guardsmen.
After it was announced that there was the shooting in Washington, D.C., and Sarah Beckstrom and Andrew Wolf were shot, Sarah succumbing to her injuries, Donald Trump announced, we're going to double down. We're going to send more troops into the city of Washington. After a judge, by the way, declared it unlawful, illegal, the deployment of these troops into the city. And Pete Hegseth, a know-nothing, unqualified, incapable of doing the job, came out and gave a statement to the press that devolved into a white Christian nationalist screed, where he's speaking in coded Christian nationalist language about appeal to heaven. We're going to get into all of that, but demanding people say Christian prayers for the families. And he came in with very obvious scripted talking points that he had to hit because he either forgot that he had said them earlier or just wanted it on repeat or couldn't think of anything original to say. But the stiffen our resolve, he said multiple times in this very brief clip before he pivoted to Christian nationalism. This is a substitute for leadership that we have now. Speaking, going back to leadership. Watch Pete Hegseth and then we'll get into his white supremacist bullshit that he's on Thanksgiving spewing.
Myself and my team were notified that 2 National Guardsmen have been shot in Washington, D.C., critically wounded. The shooter shot in a cowardly, dastardly act targeting the best of America, heroes willing to serve in Washington, D.C., serve for people they don't know and they've never met, because they love their country and their capital and their community. They were willing to do dangerous things others were not because they love their fellow Americans. Someone decided to turn that into targeting National Guardsmen. That will only stiffen our resolve. We will never back down. We will secure our capital. We will secure our cities. In fact, this happened just steps away from the White House. It will not stand. And that's why President Trump has asked me, and I will ask the Secretary of the Army to the National Guard, to add 500 additional troops, National Guardsmen, to Washington, D.C. This will only stiffen our resolve to ensure that we make Washington, D.C. safe and beautiful. The drop in crime has been historic. The increase in safety and security has been historic. But if criminals want to conduct things like this, violence against America's best, we will never back down. President Trump will never back down. That's why the American people elected him. America and our warriors, our National Guardsmen, are strong. And so we're following this very closely. We're getting information rapidly. I mentioned the faith of this country, the Christian faith, the prayers. I would ask for prayers for our National Guardsmen.
Excuse me, Mr. P.
Appeals to heaven for our National Guardsmen, for their families, on bended knee as a War Department, as a nation.
Excuse me.
We will never back down.
Excuse
We think about them right now.
Venezuela.
A couple of different things. I don't want to get petty here, but it's not myself and my team. And I'm not just speaking about grammar here. What this is a glimpse into his psyche and his arrogance and the ego of Pete Hegseth. First of all, grammar-wise, it's my team and I were notified. That's the least of the thing. The problem I have with his language isn't the grammar part of it. It's the fact that he centers himself. I was notified. Oh yeah, and as an extension, my team was too. He thinks of himself first. It's all about him and how deep and long into Donald Trump's ass he can shove his tongue. So the shooter sought the cowardly, dastardly act targeting the best of American heroes willing to serve in Washington, D.C. Let me say this about the troops in Washington, D.C. They're all over the place. They're not in the places they should be if this were actually about combating crime in the city, about setting a good order back to the city. If that were the case, they wouldn't be where all the tourists are, where there's virtually no crime anyway, right? But he says they're willing to do, they don't have a choice. These people, they joined the National Guard, but they didn't raise your hand if you want to be deployed to Washington, D.C. in violation of the law. Raise your hand if you don't care about the Posse Comitatus Act. Raise your hand. Nobody did that. So when I'm talking to my friends and colleagues and people generally about the National Guard being here, I always say, I've gotten in the face of federal agents and given them a ration of shit. I've talked about it, walking out of a restaurant and seeing the Secret Service out there doing a traffic stop and being like, oh, Trump's got you out here doing traffic stops, huh? I'll give them shit. They have a choice whether or not to be here. They have a choice. You can't just quit the military. That's not how it works. They weren't, it wasn't that they were willing to serve. They volunteered in Donald Trump's illegal, as defined by a federal judge, unlawful deployment here. And then it'll only stiffen our resolve. It'll only stiffen our resolve. He says it twice. We will secure our capital. We will secure our cities. They're going to use this as a predicate for further occupation of U.S. cities, further invasion of U.S. cities, illegally deploying the United States military into them. Mark my words, that's what they're going to do. And that President Trump, that's why President Trump has asked me, and I will ask the Secretary of the Army and the National Guard to add 500 additional troops, National Guardsmen, to Washington, D.C. That'll fix everything. More people in the city that didn't need them in the first place. It'll stiffen our resolve, and then he pivots to his Christian nationalist talking points. As I mentioned, the faith of this country, the Christian faith, not Islam, not Judaism, the faith of this country, the Christian faith, the prayers I would ask for. He wants Christian prayers. Jews need not apply. Muslims need not apply. Hindus need not apply. Some other of the thousands of other religions, you need not apply. Pete Hegseth is looking for Christian prayers here. This appeal to heaven, we're going to get to that. Appeal to heaven for National Guardsmen, for their families on bended knee, as the War Department, as the nation, we will never back down. Never back down. So you may have heard about this appeal to heaven flag. Remember when Samuel Alito, Supreme Court Justice, flew this flag outside his beach house, his vacation home? And people are like, that's a little problematic for a justice of the Supreme Court to fly this white Christian nationalist flag. Of course, it was like commissioned by George Washington during the Revolution, but there's a lot of revolutionary iconography, symbology that is being co-opted by white supremacist groups in their effort at revolution, at changing the country. And I'm going to read a little bit about that particular flag. That statement from Pete Hegseth, appeal to heaven, which just so happens to be on a white Christian nationalist flag. The history behind the controversial appeal to heaven flag. The appeal to heaven flag is now also associated with American far-right movements and supporters of former President Donald Trump. The flag has appeared at Trump rallies, and it appeared among crowds at the January 6th insurrection. It is also ingrained into the rhetoric of Christian nationalism. We just heard a Christian nationalist, Pete Hegseth, ingrain it into his rhetoric. However, its gradual integration into far-right politics actually started far before the Trump era, and its significance during the American Revolution is a key reason why. Quote, this flag is part of a broader effort by the right wing to recall the principles of the American Revolution and import them into anti-democratic efforts, says Jamar Tisby, an author and professor at Simmons College in Kentucky who studies Christian nationalism. This theme can be traced back to the emergence of the Tea Party movement, another homage to the American Revolution, the conservative political movement that took root in the early days of President Barack Obama's first term around 2009. And as you'll well remember, as all of you who have any memory whatsoever, those in my audience who aren't fucking goldfish will remember the roots of the Tea Party movement, exactly what motivated them. The election of our first black president. Oh, what a coincidence that all of a sudden they're freedom lovers, they're tyranny haters. Oh, because they were afraid that a black dude was president. The Tea Party movement called for a reduction in government influence, but was also closely related to far-right populism and racial animus in response to Obama's election to office. It greatly influenced the Republican Party and was leveraged by Donald Trump during his victorious 2016 presidential campaign. So they're going to make this a racially motivated killing, certainly an anti-Christian thing. They're going to double dip back to the Tea Party movement, putting up, using language that is coded for the ears of the neo-Nazis, of the white power movement, of white supremacists in general, certainly of white Christian nationalists, and colleagues in that movement of Pete Hegseth. Rather than just leadership, rather than just dealing with the reality that we must face, they want to engender more support to swell the ranks of racists and racism in this country, to get people on board who otherwise might not, but they're, oh my God, a Muslim killed these two people, killed this person. Just weakness, mental weakness, ethical weakness, moral weakness, character weakness in the MAGA movement. I'd love to know what you think. You can comment below this video wherever you're watching it. You can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. I would love to hear from you.
You talk about competence. We have Ilhan Omar, who does nothing but complain about our country and our Constitution. And she comes from a country with practically no country.
Donald Trump and this administration are certainly not going to let a good tragedy go without capitalizing on it and lifting the specter of racism and fear and bigotry and xenophobia, Islamophobia. These people are vitriolic, venom-spewing haters, white supremacists. I hope that there's still a modicum of people out there who may have tuned out years ago when I started calling the Republican Party the most organized, effective white supremacy organization on the planet. I got a lot of pushback, but I would hope that those people maybe remember that I said it and that they disagreed, and they'll come back now and say, ooh, you know what? Maybe you were right. Because Donald Trump, in the wake of a tragedy where a 22-year-old National Guard member was gunned down in the streets of Washington, D.C. by an unhinged lunatic from Afghanistan, is wanting you to fear brown people, foreigners, migrants. They're a danger to us all. And rather than talk about some specific threat from Afghanistan, this individual who for over a decade worked for the United States military, was on the payroll of the CIA. Rather than that, he wants you afraid of Somalians, Minnesotans, to be specific. I'm going to play this clip, and then we're going to get to a wild, insane, slur-fueled True Social post from Donald Trump where he's attacking Tim Walz and calling him slurs for people with intellectual disabilities, which I'm going to blur the word because I don't traffic in slurs here. It's so to call it insensitive is just to gloss over it, makes it like it's seeming to be politically correct. It's not about that. It's about, what about people who are they themselves have difficulties with learning? What about families who have children who are afflicted by different disabilities? It's just insensitive to actual people, not to some larger, oh, I'm not politically correct, oh, you're trying to be woke. It's not about that. This is the president, the representative for all of us. Shouldn't he try to be decent for like 5 fucking seconds? He can't manage it. And here he is fear-mongering about Somalis who come here for fear of death in their own country, come here for a better life, and he's demonizing them in the face of this tragedy, this shooting that he has some role in, because Sarah Beckstrom would not be dead if not for being deployed to Washington, D.C. from West Virginia. Watch Trump.
Many of these people are criminals. Many of these people are people that shouldn't be here. And many of them have been gotten out. I mean, we've gotten out a lot of the people that, we've taken a lot of them out of here. But they came in, yeah, I know, the old story. Many are wonderful, yeah, I'm sure.
I said many are here legally, though. What should they think in terms of their prospects?
Well, they can't be happy, okay? They can't be happy. Because what's taking place between that, if you look at Somalia, they're taking over Minnesota, and we got a lot of problems with the gangs, with all of the things taking place in Minnesota. We have an incompetent governor, we have a dope governor. They can't be happy about what's going on. And if you talk about the Afghans, there's a problem because so many Bedouins came in on the planes. They just walked in. Whoever the strongest people were physically in a way, but whoever the strongest, they got on the planes. There was no checking. They just swamped the planes. They took off. We had no idea who they were. Yeah, do you want to ask a question behind?
Me? Hi, sir. Happy
Sure.
Thanksgiving.
Hi.
What do the Somalians have to do with this Afghan guy who shot the national?
Nothing, but Somalians have caused a lot of trouble. They're ripping us off for a lot of money. There's a tremendous amount of money going back to Somalia. What the hell are we paying money to Somalia for? But they're ripping off our country at a level that few people have been able to see before. That's about the only thing. You talk about competence. We have Ilhan Omar, who does nothing but complain about our country and our Constitution. And she comes from a country with practically no country. It's devastated, it's crime-ridden, it's a mess, it's a disgrace. And we took their people at a tremendous... We're not taking their people anymore. We're not taking their people. And we're getting a lot of their people out because they're nothing but trouble. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Go ahead.
Thankfully, there was a reporter there to ask a poignant follow-up. What do the Somalians have to do with this Afghan guy who shot the National Guard members? Nothing, but Somalians have caused a lot of trouble. They're ripping us off. They're ripping us off. Do you think that at some point members of the MAGA world at large will start to get tired, to grow tired of this manipulation, this obvious manipulation of them and their emotional state? Like, Donald Trump believes, and maybe he's right. I don't know. I don't traffic in MAGA world. I don't break bread with racists. But does Donald Trump believe this is the currency that could be well spent? Is racism? It's so prevalent within the MAGA movement that this is what's going to get traction? Is demonizing not even the group of people. It's even lazy. I mean, it's not like he's out there banging hard against the Afghan population of the United States, in the United States. He's banging hard against some other group. It's remarkable. So when this tweet that was put out there by Tim Walz saying, release the MRI results, it seems like a pretty on-the-nose, accurate request. Because Donald Trump is either, well, he's probably some combination of the both. It's a spectrum, right? Just too far gone to recover relative to his cognition, or it's just bigotry and racism as a metric by design to inflame the passions of MAGA world, to get them to forget the fact that the Epstein files are nowhere near getting ready to be released. Donald Trump is probably thanking his lucky stars that this National Guardswoman was murdered, because now we're talking about this and not the Epstein files. I wouldn't put it past him. He's sociopathic, psychotic, unable to empathize. But he tweeted this screed, this insanity, maybe the most unhinged, wild post on True Social from Donald Trump. This is it. A very happy Thanksgiving salutation to all of our great American citizens and patriots who have been so nice in allowing our country to be divided, disrupted, carved up, murdered, beaten, mugged, and laughed at, along with certain other foolish countries throughout the world for being politically correct and just plain stupid when it comes to immigration. And then he rambles and lies about the people who are here and how much welfare they get and all this other nonsense. And then he attacks Tim Walz, the seriously slur governor of Minnesota. Tim Walz does nothing, either through fear, incompetence, or both, while the worst congressman/woman in our country, Ilhan Omar, always wrapped in her swaddling hijab, and who probably came to the USA illegally, in that you are not allowed to marry your brother, does nothing but hatefully complain about our country, its constitution, and how quote unquote badly she is treated, when her place of origin is a decadent, backward, and crime-ridden nation, which is essentially not even a country for lack of government, military, police, schools, etc. So he's calling into the question the legitimacy of Ilhan Omar's citizenship. She's a citizen. He's maligning what she wears because it isn't Western, I guess. And he's calling Governor Tim Walz a slur. Are you proud of this, MAGA world? All of the trolls who are regularly here, who watch every single minute of every video that I post, this is your guy? This is leadership? This rises to the level of the office of President of the United States. You want to talk about George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and Abraham Lincoln, and you want to revere those types, and then this is your guy you think is in line with that list of names? There was a part two, and it got even worse, that he's going to, and he leans right into, this is the other thing, this is kind of the theme of the day, that white Christian nationalism, of course, is going to pop up its ugly, disgusting, anti-democratic head anytime that there's a brown person that needs to be demonized. Donald Trump says, I will permanently pause migration from all third world countries to allow the U.S. system to fully recover, terminate all of the millions of Biden illegal admissions, including those signed by Sleepy Joe Biden's auto pen, and remove anyone who is not a net asset to the United States. Now, the rest of this is going to follow here, who is not a net asset. The rest of this that's going to follow is going to be about this. It's going to be about what Donald Trump's judgment or his determination of who's a net asset or not. Donald Trump would probably think, I'm not a net asset to the United States. It's just unfortunate for him. He can't do anything about me because I'm an American-born citizen. There's no difference between naturalized or born in the country citizen, but to Donald Trump, there is. I mean, there's no difference to my citizenship and her citizenship, even in Donald Trump's eyes. He thinks he can cancel both. So it's who is not a net asset to the United States or who is incapable of loving our country. Donald Trump would think, I don't love the country too. This is what I'm talking about. We are run by a rule of laws, the rule of law, a set of laws, a determination under the law about who gets this and who gets. It's not up to Donald Trump's dementia-riddled brain to determine who loves the country, who gets to stay, who's a net asset and who's not. End all federal benefits and subsidies to non-citizens of our country. Denaturalize migrants who undermine domestic tranquility. Denaturalize. That means take away the citizenship of. That means maybe Ilhan Omar, who he mentioned previously, with her swaddled hijab, to use the pronunciation of Jeanine Pirro. Denaturalize migrants who undermine domestic tranquility, and deport any foreign national who is a public charge, security risk, or non-compatible with Western civilization. Buzzwords of a neo-Nazi. Buzzwords of the AFD, buzzwords of white supremacy generally, from Donald Trump, the President of the United States. These goals will be pursued with the aim of achieving a major reduction in illegal and disruptive populations, not even illegal, just disruptive to his agenda, disruptive populations, including those admitted through an unauthorized and illegal auto pen approval process. Only reverse migration, and I'm going to get to this, can fully cure this situation. Other than that, our dipshit, dumb of a president, other than that, happy Thanksgiving to all, except those that hate, steal, murder, and destroy everything that America stands for. You won't be here for long. Well, it sounds like you're talking about yourself. You certainly hate, steal, murder, and destroy everything that America stands for, Donald Trump. Are you going to be checking out soon? Are you going to follow my prediction that you'll be dead within a year because of your gravy-fueled cardiovascular system? You won't be here for long. So, what exactly is this remigration thing? You may have heard this term. You might think it sounds legal and technical. This is the terminology of white nationalists, of white supremacists, of Nazis. And its origin, what a weird coincidence, does come from Nazi Germany. This is an article that talks a little bit about it from CNN. Department of Homeland Security issued a call to remigrate. Here's the history of the term, often associated with far-right groups. In the late 1930s, quote, before the concentration camps and gas chambers, there was a solution to remigrate Jews to Madagascar, Miller Idris explained. Indeed, Adolf Hitler weighed multiple remigration policies and other anti-Semitic proposals before arriving at his final devastating solution to the quote-unquote Jewish question, the Holocaust. And although the world vowed never again, Miller Idris said, decades later, neo-Nazis were proudly wearing references to the anti-Semitic remigration proposal on T-shirts. Remigration is, quote, this idea that you should send people who don't belong in this country to another place, Miller Idris said. While remigration isn't often used in daily conversation, Miller Idris told CNN in recent years, the concept has found a champion in a new far-right conspiracy, the Great Replacement Theory. The far right believes, quote, any particular state that has a white majority population that wants to retain it or restore it, you would have to get rid of people of color, Miller Idris said. Quote, and you either do that violently or by remigrating them. So this is the President of the United States using a shooting, the murder of a young woman, to fuel his fever dream of white supremacy in the United States, to create ethnic cleansing in the United States. It's no longer hyperbole. It can't be denied that the Republican Party is the most effective white supremacy organization on the planet. It just can't. It is self-evident, as written in our Declaration of Independence. They're going to use this to do harm, inexorable harm to the body politic of the United States, but to actual human beings who live here, who promote the betterment of our country, who provide for economic stimulus to the general economy of the United States through their jobs, through their hard work, through their families, through their spending, in taxes. And Donald Trump is afraid of brown people. MAGA world, largely. Anyway, what do you think? I'm going to invite you to this conversation. We'll just get out of here. This is becoming an emotionally heavy day. What do you think? I invite you, comment below, engage with this content.
I don't even want to talk about whether they should have been there. We ought to kiss the ground and thank God that the president said it's time to bring in more law enforcement.
It seems like every time something serious happens, like the shooting on Wednesday of 2 National Guard members, the killing of one, Sarah Beckstrom, It seems like every time something like this happens, it lays bare the incompetence of the people that Donald Trump has placed around him. We're in a different situation this term than we were the first term. At least in the first term, there was a handful, it was spotty, but there was a handful of people who were qualified and capable of doing the job. They were stymied in that job performance by Donald Trump and his demands. But this term's a whole different story. There are no Rex Tillerson types. There are no James Mattis types. It's just staffed by Donald Trump bootlickers, lapdogs, complete brown-nosing sycophants. People who are just there that when Donald Trump says jump, yes, sir, how high? That's it. And I have a few examples. And remember, in the face of this tragedy, this is what these people have to offer. This is what they bring to the table. We're going to start with Nancy Mace, who doesn't work for Donald Trump, and you'd think she does. And she is declaring here in this news hit that this tragedy, the shooting of Sarah Beckstrom, would not have happened if Donald Trump was in the White House.
This individual is in this country for one reason and one reason alone, because of the disastrous withdrawal from the Biden administration and the failure to vet in any way, shape, or form, this individual and countless others, and this administration has taken the rightful step to stop any further allowance of people with this similar background into the country.
Your thoughts on the director's comments?
Well, two things. One, I do agree with Kash Patel on this, but number one, this would never have happened with President Trump in the Oval Office. Number two, President Trump is fixing the grave mistakes and travesties under the Biden administration. And I'm just honored that I'm in Congress to watch and witness what he's doing to save our country. We're going to be so much better off for it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Look, I know it must be tough being a surrogate for Donald Trump. It must be very difficult to be a spokesperson or a cheerleader for Donald Trump. But you got to be able to do it better than this, Nancy Mace. Donald Trump is in the Oval Office, and Sarah Beckstrom was shot and killed, murdered while he was in the Oval Office. His being in the Oval Office didn't prevent it. In fact, his being in the Oval Office provided the necessary conditions for it to happen. The National Guard should not be here. She would be alive if not for the deployment to Washington, D.C. This doesn't explain it away or justify her brutal murder. Of course, that should be obvious. But I think it's undeniable that if she wasn't here on Wednesday, having been deployed by Donald Trump's orders, she'd be alive. Kash Patel showing his ass, showing his absolute fecklessness, idiocy as the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation here during a press conference, saying that he vows to capture the suspect. We're going to find him and hold him accountable, says the FBI director, while the suspect has already been apprehended because he was captured. He was shot on the scene and brought to a hospital. Yet, Kash Patel is blinded by just talking points and vows we're going to get him.
You can see behind me, we have assembled the full force of both the federal and state and local law enforcement agencies to bring bear all of our resources to make sure we find the perpetrators responsible for this heinous act. And make no mistake, they will be brought to justice.
Is he paying attention? I mean, I know he's presently, his body is physically there at the press conference. Maybe his mind is off with his country singer girlfriend, thinking about just champing at the bit. How quickly can I get on that G5 and travel to her house in Nashville? I'm thinking about the SWAT teams that I can have be her personal protective bodyguards. What's he doing? And now the real sycophancy comes in. It's with them trying to deflect away from Donald Trump about the fact that Donald Trump granted this individual asylum who's been accused in connection with this shooting. They want to blame Biden up and down the block. Oh yeah, September 2021, that's when this guy came in. But then when asked, well, who granted him asylum? All of a sudden, oh, I don't have those details. I'm going to have to refer you to this agency. Oh, you're going to have to talk to somebody else. I know everything, but I'm pulling a Mike Johnson. I just don't know about that.
And Secretary Kristi Noem has put out details specifically related to your other questions, so I'll let that speak for themselves.
Wait. Let's stop the clip. What was that first part? Secretary Kristi Noem has put out details specifically related to your other question, so I will let that speak the first. What was that? All right. I guess we're not going to get an answer to that. Re-rack the clip, start it from the beginning, and we'll get to the rest of this Trump ass kiss ceremony, which took place at a press conference.
And Secretary Kristi Noem has put out details specifically related to your other questions, so I'll let that speak for themselves.
When he was granted asylum, if you could just clarify that timeline and...
Yes, I believe Kristi Noem put that out, and that's a DHS matter, and I'll refer it to them.
I'll refer it to them. Oh, you will? We know. The reporting's been done. Donald Trump granted the guy asylum. That does not make Donald Trump responsible for this. We could not have predicted that this is where the problem lies. Is that you got one side that just wants to point blame. After the shooting, there was all kinds of conspiracy theories out there. None came to this. Benny Johnson out there tweeting insane, crazy shit to try to bolster Donald Trump's narrative and agenda. It's just nonsense. And it goes as deep as the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro, who in this clip, maybe I should have started with this, because in this clip, she says, we need to kiss the ground and thank Donald Trump for him ending crime in Washington, D.C. We'll get to the ultimate claim, but I want to drill down on what exactly she means by kiss the... That's not a saying that's used like this. I think what she was going to say, we should kiss the ground Donald Trump walks on and thank him. That seems the only plausible explanation for what she's getting ready to say, or what you're getting ready to hear her say.
There are people who are also upset with the president believing that the National Guard members should not even have been there if it were not for the executive order.
I don't even want to talk about whether they should have been there. We ought to kiss the ground and thank God that the president said it's time to bring in more law enforcement to make sure that a city that had the fourth highest homicide rate in the country was that violence was quelled. I'm not even going to go there.
Of course you don't want to even talk about whether they should have been here. Of course. I don't even want to talk about whether they should have been here. We ought to kiss the ground and thank God that the president did blah, blah, blah. Not a saying. And I do. I believe what she stopped herself from saying, we should kiss the ground that Donald Trump walks on. What do you think? Now, as far as the last thing that she said, that the violence was quelled, the fourth highest homicide rate in the country. Per capita, it's not even close to the fourth highest, by the way. There are many, many other cities in red states that have worse crime statistics than Washington, D.C. And like I've said, I'm not saying there's zero crime in Washington, D.C. I've never said that. It's a big city. Of course there's crime. But is it generally unsafe? No. Did Donald Trump did he quell the crime? Is it all over, as he made the statement the other day? No. Donald Trump claimed the other day that there hasn't been a single murder in 6 months in the city, and that's ignoring 21 killings in Washington, D.C. The problem lies in the fact that most of those murders here in the city in which I live are across the river to the area of the city that is ignored by Donald Trump's deployment of the National Guard, of ICE roaming the streets with masks on, kidnapping people without due process. They're all here on this side of the river. And this is proof of that. Quote, we haven't had a murder in 6 months, Trump boasts, ignoring 24 murders in Washington, D.C. since his federal takeover. 24 of those killings have taken place since Trump deployed the National Guard to the streets of the nation's capital and seized control of the city's police force on the 11th of August. The first of those murders took place on the first night of federal control. The names of the victims are not included in the statistical rundowns, but here, from the local police website, are the names of 21 people that have been killed since then, whose deaths Trump ignores every time he repeats his lie that no one has been murdered in Washington, D.C. on his watch. And here's the list of names of the people that Jeanine Pirro, the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, certainly has access to these numbers, certainly knows the actual true crime statistics, and Donald Trump, that they ignore. Many of these murders took place in areas that aren't covered by Donald Trump's publicity stunt, because that's what it was. It's either a publicity stunt to cover for the kidnappings by masked, armed secret police in the streets of Washington, D.C. and Chicago and L.A. and New York City, all the places. It's either covering for that or covering for the fact that the Epstein files contain Donald Trump's name maybe thousands of times. And the emails that we now know say that he knew about the girls. These are feckless losers, the Nancy Maces and the Kash Patels, the Jeanine Pirros. Have a little self-respect for yourself, folks. Have a little dignity, a little shame. It should be embarrassing for you to be out there tonguing Donald Trump's asshole on national television in the wake of a murder of a woman who shouldn't have been here to be murdered in the first place. Your sycophancy is gross. You're stinking up the place. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. Let's have in the comments. You could also call the voicemail line. Here's the number on the screen. Here's my email address on the screen. Friday couldn't have come any earlier after having a couple days off and then back to the weekend. We'll see. Anyway, I am disgusted by my country. I am embarrassed by our president. I am embarrassed that these people who have been imbued with great power, great responsibility, are just using their authority and time in office to kiss the ass of a despot, of a fascist, of a sociopath.
I know a lot about golf. I've won 38 club championships, and I don't get to practice much. I won one last year. I won a club championship at a big club, beating a 27-year-old kid.
Well, I was just over there off camera looking in a closet. I thought maybe Jake Tapper snuck in and was hiding out in here for fear that he could be spotted, and then asked the question, hey dude, where are you? Where's all your reporting about the dementia and the steady cognitive decline of Donald Trump? I was going to ask him. He wasn't in the closet though. He must be somewhere else in the city. Because Donald Trump is far gone. He vacillates between wannabe acting like he's a tough guy, but just not getting it done, and then just gone, just like reminiscing about the thing he really wished he was as a child, and it's all coming back to him. He's reverting, he's regressing. And this was on display yesterday during the Thanksgiving little deal at Mar-a-Lago, where he's doing a live stream and answering questions from the military. Just bananas, batshit crazy. Like, seriously, we are in grave danger with this as the president of the United States. And it starts with him. My clips start. This is going a little bit out of order. But with him talking about nobody's laughing at us anymore, and then does like the thing that is going to cause people to laugh at him in the very moment. Watch this.
And they respect us now again. A year ago, 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, they didn't respect us at all. They laughed at us. Nobody's laughing anymore. So I just want to thank you all very much. I'm very proud of you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Nobody's laughing? Everybody's laughing, dipshit. You are hilarious in the worst way. Everyone's laughing. Now, the things we shouldn't be laughing at end up being funny because I delight in the misfortune of fascists. I delight in the death of fascists, for that matter. Here's Donald Trump making a claim to a Coast Guardsman. Is that what they call them? I was a Marine. In the Army, you're called a soldier. In the Navy, you're called a sailor. What do they call Coast Guard people? When I was in the military, they weren't even a Department of the Defense. They were a Department of Transportation. I know I say that a lot, but maybe I'm getting my dig in. By the way, to the Coast Guard credit, it's considered the second hardest physically boot camp among the armed services. So I'm giving a little jab, but they legit go through some training. But here he is explaining to a member of the Coast Guard that he personally redesigned their ships, the hull of their ship, the hulls of their ship. That Donald Trump apparently is a brilliant mind. And he redesigned them because he's all about the looks, I think is what he says. Watch this unhinged dementia moment that Jake Tapper should be like peeking out from under the table with his notepad like, oh, here's my next book. But he's nowhere to be found.
Various places, all of these places that got hit by the hurricanes and all of the different, the storms, the big water storms as they call them, but mostly hurricanes. The jobs you do, the way you go into those seas, I wouldn't want to do it. You want to do it, but I wouldn't want to do it. And I just want to thank you for that. As you know, we've ordered a lot of Coast Guard cutters, brand new, beautiful, the best machines in the world, the fastest, the best maneuverability. They tell me. I said, how's the speed and the maneuverability? I'm a looks person. I wanted the hull to be perfect. I sort of redesigned the hull a little bit, the hulls. But we ordered a lot, and we're ordering icebreakers, too, that you're going to be in charge of. We have 11 of them being built right now. We had none. We only have one in the whole country. Russia has 48, and we have one. And that's just ridiculous. So
there was another part of that clip that I forgot to talk about, that was in here, and it's this. All of these places that got hit by hurricanes and all of the different, the storms, the big water storms, as they call it. Is that what we call it? Is that what they call it? Who calls it water storms? Did you think that we thought you meant mud storms or brick storms or wood storms or rock storms? We know you're talking about water storms, especially when you start talking about hurricanes. You melted-brained moron. And then, of course, I'm a looks person, Donald Trump says. You think? I wanted the whole to be perfect. I sort of redesigned the whole a little bit. Sort of and a little bit are doing a lot of heavy lifting there when Donald Trump had absolutely no role in designing for maneuverability and speed the hull of a vessel. And then here, some dipshit, I say dipshit, it's a military member, but asking Donald Trump about his golf game, what his actual handicap is, and if he's going to invite or challenge President Biden to a golf game. This is obviously meant to be partisan, and Donald Trump runs away with it and then tells a truly unhinged story about his golf game, that he's won 38 golf championships. It's very akin to one of the, whether Kim Il-sung or, one of the, not Kim Jong-un, but maybe the dad or maybe his granddad told a story that the first time he ever golfed, he hit like 16 holes in one. This is akin to that. That Donald Trump is so addled in his brain that he believes that we're going to believe that he has won 38 golf championships. Watch this.
Mr. President.
Yes.
I'm Petty Officer Riza. First question is, what is your true golf handicap, not according to fake news? And are you and President Biden going to play that golf match?
I'd love to. I mean, I've invited him, but he doesn't want to show up. Look, I know a lot about golf. I've won 38 club championships, and I don't get to practice much. I won one last year. I won a club championship at a big club, beating a 27-year-old kid. I said, I'm decades older than you, but I said, the fairway doesn't know how old you are as you walk up the middle, and he's in the rough. And I've been a good golfer over the years. When you win, club championships are our majors. You know that. Most people can't play in them. They won't. We're talking about no strokes or anything else. So I'm a very low handicap, and I've won 38 of them legitimately, everyone legitimately. It has to be legitimate because you have a lot of people following you during club championships, as you know. So I guess I'm very, I got to be right around scratch or better. I beat a +3. That's 3 better, 3 below par. If you look at it for those that don't know, in the finals of the club championship last year, with all I was going through, and with no practice, so I'm a good golfer. Yeah, I would have to say that. I want to be honest. I have to be honest. I played with Bryson DeChambeau on his show, the Breaking 50, and we had a good time. But a lot of people thought that was a great ratings hit, and we had a lot of fun. But golf is great. It's sort of a microcosm of life, and you have a lot of people talk, but they can't play, like Biden. Biden can't hit a ball 30 yards, I'm telling you. I looked at his swing. He cannot hit a ball 30 yards. He said he was a 6 handicap. He said that was the only thing that made me angry during the debate with him. He said he was a 6. I said, you're not a 6. And he said, well, I'm an 8. I said, that was quick. I picked up 2. But he's not 100. He's not 100. So, but it's a great game, and I hope you guys get to play a little bit of it.
Nobody believes that. I mean, the number of people who believe that it's got to be very, very small, because Donald Trump, the least athletic. I mean, FDR was probably more of an athlete than Donald Trump, and he was in a fucking wheelchair. Donald Trump is a fat, loathsome slop freak. He is not an athlete. Just by virtue of the fact that he's 80 fucking years old, he's not an athlete. And he continues to win club championships against 27-year-olds. No, you didn't. You're a famous cheater at golf, a prolific cheater at golf. And you can't even cheat. It was totally legitimate because people are following you around. Dude, everybody who's following you around is on the payroll. Again, paging Jake Tapper. The media asleep at the fucking wheel. Jake Tapper has the gall to write a book about Joe Biden and then crickets for Donald Trump. Is it because of fear? Is he afraid of reprisal from Donald Trump? Or is he stupid and doesn't recognize this as what it is? The self-evident, steady decline of Donald Trump cognitively, while bragging about the Montreal Cognitive Assessment that he aced. It's just like an IQ test. This is a giraffe, and this is a lion, and this is a rhinoceros. Good job. Good job, MAGA. Good job, Tapper. Dipshit. Anyway, what do you think? I invite you to this conversation, this unfortunate conversation. You can comment below this video wherever you're watching it. Please make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. It is free to do so. Click subscribe, and you like and follow the Facebook page over there, Dollar More Daily. I would appreciate it very much. 714-576-4054 is the voicemail number at which you can leave a brief, fewer than 3-minute voicemail. The closer to 3 minutes, the less likely I'm going to get through it. So make sure you're pithy, you have what you want to say lined out, and don't leave me multiple messages, please. This goes for you people who leave me like 50 messages a day. Please, I'm not listening to number 2 through 50. It's just the first one. If you have that much to say, start a YouTube channel. Listen, this is an aside. I just thought of it. If you have 10 or 15 or even 5 voicemails worth of things to say, that's 15 minutes of talking. Start a channel. Start a podcast. You obviously have a lot to say that doesn't need to be told to me. The world needs to hear it. All right? There you go. A little advice. Anyway, I love and appreciate you very much. After you've subscribed, if you want to help support this work, I would appreciate that. For $2 a month, you can become a channel member right here on YouTube. Click the join button below this video, or you can go over to patreon.com/IDoubtIt and help support the work over there. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next time. Be genuine. Take care of one another. This is just to make Donald Trump the feckless weakling in steep cognitive decline, who can't walk straight, who can't think straight, whose mouth isn't even straight. They want to make him feel good because he feels attacked. You know, it must be a real bummer. I wouldn't know anything about this, but it must be a real bummer when you're trying to be a tough guy and you just can't get out of your own way, or your cognitive decline and your ongoing slide into dementia just is stopping you. That's what's taking place with Donald Trump right now. This headline from the Daily Beast really says it all. Confused Trump, 79, mistakenly amplifies call to impeach himself. The president's tirade against a group of Democratic lawmakers backfired. And what they're talking about in this particular article from the Daily Beast is the fact that Donald Trump, this post that I showed yesterday or the other day that he retweeted, when you click on this one, it takes you to this other, which is an account, the name of which is Impeach Trump a Third Time. And the person is posting this particular screenshot of the Mark Kelly and Alyssa Slotkin and the other members of the intelligence community and former military with their video of "You can refuse illegal orders." And Donald Trump posted this, a call to impeach himself. And because he's in such a diminished cognitive state, a diminished emotional state, a dysregulated state, he's having to have his minions go out there and do the dirty work for him because he cannot function. I talked yesterday about his rapidly declining ability to walk under his own power, stumbling up a slight incline outside the Oval Office of the White House. And now he's having Caroline Leavitt and Pete Hegseth do his bidding. And let me get to that. Let's start with the Pete Hegseth thing. Pete Hegseth posted this long post on Twitter, backing up the Department of War's post about recalling Mark Kelly back to active duty in order to court-martial him. This is not just a veiled threat. This is just a threat of oppression, of freedom of speech, of punishing someone they don't agree with, who's calling it like it is, who's reminding service members of their oath. I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but this is what he says. But there's another post from his personal account that lets you know all you need to know about how serious they're taking that. That this is not some threat to the Republic. This isn't a threat to service members. This isn't a wink and a nod to service members to ignore lawful orders, as Caroline Leavitt said, which I'm going to get to in a minute. They're making jokes about this. They're taunting Mark Kelly, which is not something you would do going into a court-martial proceeding. So this is the post. We put it up there. This is the long, meandering post. We'll zoom in on it a little bit. So, quote-unquote, Captain Kelly. He's not quote-unquote captain. That's the rank he attained Pete Hegseth, you spindly-legged coward. So Captain Kelly, not only did your sedition video intentionally undercut good order and discipline, but you can't even display your uniform correctly. Your medals are out of order and blah, 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 blah. This is the petty nonsense they're going after. And while trying to convince America that a real serious crime, sedition, was committed, that there's a seditious conspiracy underfoot. Also, Donald Trump pardoned or commuted the sentences of 6 people who were convicted, literally convicted, of seditious conspiracy against the country. So they're not taking this seriously at all, without a doubt. Caroline Leavitt yesterday, on the little path from the White House, little paved path, she's on her way to go talk to Fox News and gets interrupted, gets sidelined by reporters for a little impromptu presser. And what's interesting about the thing I'm getting ready to show you is there are 2 separate narratives that are being spun at the same time, and neither one meshes. When she talks to reporters, this person who's never served in the military has no functioning understanding of what it's like to be in a military environment, to serve on active duty, to follow orders, to give orders. She has no idea. She's a college softball player. She's not a military veteran in any sense. But she tries to convince the press at the little gaggle that Mark Kelly is attempting to intimidate 1.3 million active duty members of our military. And then when she goes to Fox News, she uses the same number, 1.3 million active members, but it's not intimidate anymore. Minutes apart from these 2 things that she says, and neither one of them jibe. Watch this.
The White House supportive of the...
I'll answer that in a question, but go ahead.
Supportive of the Pentagon's investigation into Mark Kelly, and what do you make of his response that it's just intimidation?
The White House is supportive of the Department of War's investigation into Senator Mark Kelly, and I think what Senator Mark Kelly was actually trying to do was intimidate the 1.3 million active duty service members who are currently serving in our United States Armed Forces with that video that he and his Democrat colleagues put out. Senator Mark Kelly well knows the rules of the military and the respect that one must have for the chain of command, and that all lawful orders are presumed to be legal by our service members. You can't have a functioning military if there is disorder and chaos within the ranks, and that's what these Democrat members were encouraging. It's very clear, and not a single one of them, since they've been pressed by the media, and I'll give you guys credit for that, can point to a single illegal order that this administration has given down, because it does not exist. They knew what they were doing in this video, and Senator Mark Kelly and all of them should be held accountable for that.
First, let me say this. These people who put themselves out there as rabid patriots who love and respect the troops also think the troops are such weaklings that they are intimidated by a United States senator who's no longer on active duty or in anyone's chain of command, that they're intimidated by Mark Kelly. That's the military, apparently, that Republicans believe we have. So easily intimidated by a video that says, hey, remember your oath. You don't have to follow illegal orders. Great. Well, after that gaggle, she made her way down to talk to Martha McCallum. And this is a remarkable change of messaging in just a matter of a few moments. Watch this one.
It's not a coincidence that all of them have military or national security experience in their background. They were leaning into that experience to try and give a wink and a nod to the 1.3 million active duty service members who serve in our United States Armed Forces, and essentially encourage them to defy the orders of their commander-in-chief, which is illegal, by the way. Let me be very clear. Not a single order this president or administration has given to our military has ever been illegal, nor will it ever be. This administration respects and abides by the law, and these officials know it. They are trying to sow chaos and distrust, which is a very dangerous thing to do within the military's ranks. The sanctity of our military respects and relies on law and order and the chain of command, and that's what this administration is trying to say, and that's why the Department of War opened up this investigation against Senator Mark Kelly today.
Yeah, it's no longer intimidation. It's no longer essentially an intimidation tactic. Now it's a wink and a nod, bink, bink. A wink and a nod to the 1.3 million active duty service members who serve in the United States Armed Forces. And essentially, that's the wiggle room. That's the wiggle word there. She's not stating emphatically. She's essentially, basically, generally, essentially encourage them to defy the orders of their commander-in-chief. So is he trying to intimidate or encourage? Which one is it? I almost said Marjorie Taylor Greene. Not far off the mark. Which one is it, Caroline Leavitt? Which one is it, Republican Party? Which one is it, Donald Trump? Which one is it, Pete Hegseth? You're going to court-martial. You're going to recall to active duty, which the mechanisms aren't even in place to do that. He's too old for this. I didn't retire from the military, so I don't know all of the ins and outs about what can be done and under what circumstances and at what age. And I mean, are 90-year-old veterans who speak out against Donald Trump, who retired from the military, are they at threat of being recalled to active duty? And again, as I said the very first time I talked about this a couple days ago, I don't believe this is going to happen. This is just bluster. This is just to make Donald Trump the feckless weakling in steep cognitive decline, who can't walk straight, who can't think straight, whose mouth isn't even straight. They want to make him feel good because he feels attacked. He feels like, wait, my dictatorial stance as a leader is being questioned. We must make people afraid. Under any other normal administration, this would not be tolerated. This is why Democrats, elected Democrats, and if you're not watching, if your staffers are watching, and if you're not watching, I know your constituents are watching. This is why we do not ally with Republicans on their legislation. We do not advance the agenda of Donald Trump in any way, in any shape, in any form. We do not do it. Do not vote for these idiotic measures of socialism is the real threat to the world. Jason Crow signed on and voted for that dumbass piece of legislation, and it's not because it's not a bill to be signed by the president. It's just a statement of intent or whatever, a messaging referendum. Why would Jason Crow, the same Jason Crow that was in this video, vote for that? Why would they vote for anything that Donald Trump and his Republican Party under Mike Johnson puts forward? I guess that's where I'll leave you. What do you think?
Donald Trump's going to be gone a couple years. And if you're part of the military that is going after sitting senators, sitting members of Congress, and part of, the weaponization of government, there will be consequences, without a doubt.
Staying on the topic of this Mark Kelly fiasco, the only person who's being singled out because the courts aren't going to punish these people. The courts aren't going to convict these senators and representatives for telling troops, reminding them of their oath to the Constitution, of making sure they know that they do not have to follow illegal orders. There's nothing unlawful about that. There's certainly nothing unethical or immoral about it. It seems duty rich to spread that message, right? So no court's going to do anything. So because Mark Kelly is a retired Navy captain, and that's not captain like in the Army, that's full bird colonel in the Navy. They do things differently in the Navy with their ranks. And so they have to use the Secretary of Defense, the Pentagon, the military apparatus to threaten to recall him. One member of the military was on CNN yesterday being asked about this particular nonsense. Ruben Gallego, former United States Marine, like me, brother in arms. And he was asked, I have 3 clips for you. One is them asking him, what's your message to the troops? The second is about, do you trust the process if indeed he does get recalled and court-martialed? And then third, do you have a personal message? Yes, go Ruben. A personal message for Pete Hegseth. First, let's start with what his message is to the troops, I guess trying to spur in him a message similar to that of the individuals who made the video.
What message would you send to other veterans now about this particular moment in time, what they shouldn't be doing in this moment?
Well, I think you're talking about current military personnel, not veterans. But for current military personnel, just continue doing your job. Let the politicians fight this out. You know what you need to be doing. You know what is right, what is wrong. And should the moment meet where you find yourself being given an illegal order, then follow your gut, follow your instinct, and do what you're supposed to do to uphold the Constitution of the United States. For us, we're not going to be intimidated. This is just an act by a very desperate, cowardly man who's trying to distract from everything that's going wrong in his life, and he's trying to attack a patriot that has served his country honorably and still does.
You're noticing, I hope, a stark contrast between how these Democratic leaders are treating the troops, dealing with the troops, talking to the troops, referencing the troops. There's respect. There's treating them like the adults that they are, the intelligent individuals with agency of their own. Not treating them like, oh, they're being intimidated. Oh, they're too stupid to know what's illegal and what is not illegal, which is how Republicans are treating them. I think it's worthy to hone in on that, and that's why I played that clip. But he's ultimately given the exact same message. Follow your gut. If something seems illegal, question the chain of command. There is no regulation against questioning the chain of command. Hey, can I get my input in here? It's not an authoritarian outfit, the Army or the Marine Corps, the Navy, the Air Force. You can give input. Now we get to the crux of it. On whether or not Ruben Gallego would trust a court-martial in this setup under this regime, because it's not a kangaroo court. It is a professional military trial with a prosecutor, with a defense attorney. They're both military members. The rules of evidence still apply. It's not like an NJP, a non-judicial punishment, which is just your commander dropping the hammer and there's no jury involved. This is just like a civilian court, except it is jurred by members of the military, active people. Certainly they're going to have their biases relative to politics, but they have to rule on the evidence. And for the most part, the way I understand it, I've known some JAGs in my time, judge advocate generals, not jagoffs. I've known some jagoffs too. They take this role very seriously. They understand the import of the actions that they take and the ramifications it can have on a member of the military, of a fellow member of the military. So anyway, this is the answer he gave when asked about the stand-up nature or whether he would trust the process.
To circle back to what may unfold from this investigation into Senator Kelly, what is your level of trust in the U.S. military justice system, if it were to get that far, to handle this?
I trust them actually a lot, and for a couple reasons. Number one, these are professionals. They are also swearing to the Constitution of the United States. They know that there will be fallout and consequences if they are used in a hard way to basically railroad someone like Senator Kelly, because Donald Trump's going to be gone a couple years. And if you're part of the military that is going after sitting senators, sitting members of Congress, and part of the weaponization of government, there will be consequences, without a doubt. So I think there's going to be a lot of officers that are going to be part of this potential tribunal, if they want to call it that, they're going to be looking over their shoulders because they know that Donald Trump will be gone and they will not have that protection. They're going to have to do the safest thing possible, which is follow the Constitution of the United States, and you'll be fine.
Man, that's a message that needs to be talked about more, needs to be drilled down on more, and not just for military members, for members of Congress. Republicans need to know that. Donald Trump's not going to be around much longer. I've said months ago that I don't think he's going to make it a calendar year. We're seeing that play out right now with his health. But he's not going to be there to protect you. He's not going to be there. No one's going to have the hypnotic control over the MAGA base, and you're not going to be able to hide under the cover of the cultist nature of Trumpism. He's going to be gone. And when he's gone, things will slowly get back to normal. You need to remember that. There will be consequence for, hopefully, I said the same thing about January 6th and Donald Trump being held accountable, and then Merrick Garland happened, and look what happened to that. But if all things go well, there will be consequence for your actions. You will be held accountable legally, societally, culturally, hopefully, at the very least, you will be held accountable. Now, the third clip, she asked, do you have a personal message for Pete Hegseth? And this is where, chef's kiss, my first chef's kiss for Ruben Gallego, who calls everything, he says it exactly like it is. If this was we could put AI and put my voice on his words, and you'd be like, yeah, that sounds like something Jesse Dollemore would say. Anyway, watch Ruben Gallego go pretty hard on the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth.
And lastly, before I let you go, what would you say directly to Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, of course renamed the Secretary of War, about this issue?
Well, I think number one, you will never, ever even be half the man that Senator Kelly is. You, sir, are a coward. And the fact that you are following this order from the president shows how big of a coward you are. And I can't wait till you no longer are the Secretary of Defense.
More of that energy from Democrats, please, please, and thank you, please. I implore you. I'm begging you. More of this from elected Democrats. You will never, ever be half the man that Senator Kelly is. You, sir, are a coward. And the fact that you are following this order from the president shows how big a coward you are. I cannot wait for you to no longer be the Secretary of Defense. I don't know what that last one. I'm putting my own imagination at work at the intent of that particular statement. But I agree with all of that. Pete Hegseth is absolutely a coward, unfettered, unabashed coward, who's a follower, not a leader. And he chooses to follow the worst individuals with the worst instincts among us. Anyway, what do you think? I invite you to this conversation. Let's have it in the comments below the video, wherever you're watching it. Please make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and like and follow the Facebook page, Dollemore Daily. I would appreciate it very much. It helps more than you think.
And I know the Department of Justice will be appealing this in very short order, so maybe James Comey should pump the brakes on his victory lap.
James Comey finally responded. Not finally, it didn't take him that long. I mean, all this took place yesterday, but he responded with a video on Instagram. I got several clips here, but I want to set the narrative first with what his statement was. I think context really matters. And I think when you have all these players saying different things, we got Caroline Leavitt, we got Pam Bondi, we've got another Caroline Leavitt clip. It's madness. But there's two narratives, there's 2 points that I want to make here, that I want to set. One is that Fox News is absolutely working in tandem with the White House to spin a certain narrative on this. You'll hear it at the end of one of the clips with Martha McCallum, who's really dismissive. We played a little piece of his statement. It went on, she says. And I'm going to play for you his statement. It's like 2 minutes long, and it does not go on and on. It gets to the heart of the matter, that he is also not taking a victory lap. He's saying, look, they're probably still going to come after me, but I'm unafraid. I'm not intimidated by this because I have faith in our judicial system. Watch James Comey, and then we're going to get to the rest of this. Stick around for it because there's some wild shit said in these clips.
I'm grateful that the court ended the case against me, which was a prosecution based on malevolence and incompetence, and a reflection of what the Department of Justice has become under Donald Trump, which is heartbreaking. But I was also inspired by the example of the career people who refused to be part of this travesty. It cost some of them their jobs, which is painful, but it preserved their integrity, which is beyond price. And I know they will serve again. I was very lucky that some of the best lawyers in America stepped forward to represent me. I hope they serve as an example to more and more lawyers, especially at some of the big firms, to participate in protecting our liberty, protecting the rule of law. I know that Donald Trump will probably come after me again, and my attitude is going to be the same. I'm innocent, I am not afraid, and I believe in an independent federal judiciary, the gift from our founders that protects us from a would-be tyrant.
So, Caroline, is the president more determined now, since the judge's ruling today, to go after James Comey and Tish James, and if so, why?
I wouldn't say he's going after them. I think the president is more determined than ever to see accountability in this country, yes, and to correct the wrongs of the weaponization of our justice system that we saw under the previous administration and Joe Biden.
You think, I'll get it right, you think the president is more determined than ever to see accountability in this country? Our convicted felon who attempted to overthrow the United States government in order to stay in power after losing an election, you think he, let me check my notes here, wants accountability in this country? Come on, Caroline, you don't really believe that. I mean, this is the perennial problem with MAGA World, with the leaders of MAGA World, with the spokespeople for MAGA World. It's the question that just looms large. Do they really believe this nonsense, these lies, this propaganda, or do they know it to be propaganda and they know their audience, the intended audience, is so stupid they will believe anything they're told? Like good cult members. That, by the way, as I spoke about earlier, was on her way to talk to Martha MacCallum from Fox News, and she was sidetracked by a little impromptu gaggle with reporters. When she got to her final destination to speak outdoors to Fox News, this is the conversation about the same topic.
What can we expect will happen next, Caroline?
Well, what I will say is that everybody knows that James Comey lied to Congress. It's as clear as day. And this judge took an unprecedented action to throw these cases out to shield James Comey and Letitia James from accountability based on a technical ruling. And the administration disagrees with that technical ruling. We believe the attorney in this case, Lindsay Halligan, is not only extremely qualified for this position, but she was in fact legally appointed. And I know the Department of Justice will be appealing this in very short order. So maybe James Comey should pump the brakes on his victory lap.
All right, we'll be watching. We just showed a small piece of it. It goes on and on. Caroline, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Happy
Martha.
Thanksgiving. Good to see you.
Too.
She was not, in fact, legally appointed. A federal judge has spoken. A federal judge has ruled. And the entire nonsense about this being legal and being above board is just, it doesn't hold up. You've got your ally there in Martha MacCallum. We just played a small piece of James Comey's victory lap. I guess they're saying that's what that was that you watched. Victory lap. And it goes on and on, she says, as she rolls her eyes. This is one of their straight news people, by the way. This isn't the Jesse Waters element of Fox News or the Sean Hannity or the Laura Ingraham. She's the daytime shift. She's the actual journalist, heavy air quotes. And the message was received by Pam Bondi, because just minutes later, Pam Bondi was in Memphis giving a press conference about whatever authoritarian nonsense they want to put forward there. And she was asked specifically about this particular case, being dismissed, that Lindsay Halligan, the current named illegally appointed U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, is not properly there. She's not officially even the U.S. Attorney. And this was Pam Bondi's response, taking her marching orders from apparently Caroline Leavitt.
Okay, and then if I could just get your reaction to the James Comey,
Sure.
James cases being dropped today. Back in Washington, James Comey put out a video. He said this matters most because a message has to be sent. The President of the United States cannot use the Department of Justice to target his political enemies. Your reaction to the cases being dropped into that specific message?
Sure, we'll be taking all available legal action, including an immediate appeal, to hold Letitia James and James Comey accountable for their unlawful conduct.
What is your reaction to his statement?
I'm going to keep going on this. I'm not worried about someone who has been charged with a very serious crime. His alleged actions were a betrayal of public trust. So.
I love that Donald Trump, again, convicted felon, 34 felony counts he was convicted of in a court of law. He's a convict. He's a felon. He is going to be in charge of accountability for their unlawful conduct. Now, the case was dismissed without prejudice, which means it can be brought again, and it likely will. We'll see. But it's going to be, you're going to have a hard time finding a jury in the jurisdiction in which the crimes were committed that are going to allow this to take place. It is remarkable where we are and how many people don't have a spine, don't have dignity or self-respect, any decency within them. What's in it for these people? Maybe that's the overarching question. I don't know. What thing of such great value do you receive to sell your fucking soul, Pam Bondi, Caroline Leavitt, Martha McCallum? What is Donald Trump going to do for you other than discard you when you are no longer of any use to him? Another question. I'm full of questions today, right? Anyway, comment below. I welcome your participation in this conversation. Let's have it below the video, wherever you're watching it, whether that be Facebook or YouTube.
You know, whether it's a pair of jeans and a decent shirt, I would encourage people to maybe dress a little better, which encourages us to maybe behave a little better. Let's try not to wear slippers and pajamas as we come to the airport.
Why is everything a performance with these assholes? Planes are falling out of the sky, colliding with one another. Nearly 200 people are dead this year from deadly airplane crashes. And we're seeing types of airplane crashes that we haven't seen for nearly 2 decades. And rather than do his job, Sean Duffy, the Secretary of Transportation, is talking about you need to dress better on a plane. You need to wear a decent shirt, and that to him is civility. And he talks, don't take your socks off and put it on the chair in front of you, help someone with their bags. He says all those other things, but it always comes back to how you're dressed, to your social status, to your whatever class that you can represent. That to him is civility. That to him is decency. That, by the way, isn't his fucking job. His job is to ensure safety in the air, not a pleasurable atmosphere to be had. Let me remind you of where we are in the United States as far as air safety is concerned. This is from May, by the way, May of 2025, not last week. This is months ago. Deadly U.S. plane crashes in 2025, the timeline. There have been 60 deadly aviation crashes in the United States in 2025. Since May, or as of May, by the way. Before 2025, the most recent deadly plane crash involving a U.S. airliner, not a small plane, but an airliner, was in 2009. 2009. How many presidents ago was that? How many administrations ago was that? And Sean Duffy's talking about how you dress. How about doing your job, brother? How about this? From a local Fox affiliate, hopelessness among air traffic controllers as government shutdown drags on. We're not safe because they shut down the government and weren't paying people. Stress at home causes stress at the workplace. Worry and tension about how you're going to pay your bills, how you're going to pay your rent or your mortgage, how you're going to feed your children. But make sure you got a nice shirt on. Here's Sean Duffy to the rescue, talking in, I believe, Newark, about his new civility plan. You know, not doing his job, he'd rather focus on how you're dressed. Watch this.
Civility. Some of you might have noticed that we've launched a civility campaign. And I think it's important as we travel that we think about not just ourselves, not just our families, but we think about those who are around us. And we call our better angels. In a busy time, and again, the airports are going to be packed. TSA lines may be a little longer, and you might not be able to find a seat as you're by your gate because of the number of flights that are going out or coming in. But I think we have to think about, how do we do a better job? How do we, maintain maybe some of that frustration we have as we travel this Thanksgiving season? Maybe we should say please and thank you to our pilots and to our flight attendants. I think, again, I call this just maybe dressing with some respect. Whether it's a pair of jeans and a decent shirt, I would encourage people to maybe dress a little better, which encourages us to maybe behave a little better. Let's try not to wear slippers and pajamas as we come to the airport. I think that's positive.
Dressing better is civility, Secretary Duffy. To think about those who are around us, call on our better angels, and dress better. Think about the people around you. What are they going to think if you have sweatpants on? Oh, the humanity cries out Sean Duffy. It's not just about honoring the better angels of your nature. It's about honoring the country. That's how important it is for you to dress like Sean Duffy wants you to dress on a plane. It honors the country.
Yeah. We've seen an uptick in maybe a degradation in civility in the airspace, and so I thought it is appropriate to. Again, you can't legislate that, right? You can't mandate it, but I think if you ask people, could we do better? Could we be better? I think you won't get a better result unless you make the ask, and so I'm just making the ask. Let's all travel better together, and again, I think it honors our country, it honors our families, it honors our fellow passengers, and so I've made the ask, and again, I think we can do a better job. And by the way, most flights are pretty darn good, and people do behave really well with one another. It's just a few of those times where, again, don't take your shoes off and put your feet on the chair ahead of you. That's just, or maybe don't play your movie without headphones on. Just some simple things that can annoy the folks around you. We don't have to do that. And so just be cognizant and courteous. That's the ask.
Sean, I'll tell you what honors our country and our families and our fellow passengers. What would honor them best is for you to do your fucking job, brother. Is for you to ensure that planes aren't colliding midair and ending families. That would be swell, sir. And there's one last one. They keep trying to redirect him, and he keeps coming back to dressing, even in this clip where they're asking him, look, it seems like you're trying to put the onus on everybody else. What about you? What role do you have to play to make things safer in the air, to make travel more seamless? What about your job? And this was his answer.
Yes.
Hafley with MS Now. I was talking to passengers this morning about your civility campaign. They feel like it's putting the onus on passengers to create a more pleasant air travel experience. I know you're putting billions of dollars into this revamp for ATC to make that better, but can you talk about what you're doing immediately on your end to help with the air travel experience and talk directly to passengers here?
Well, so I would just tell you, yes, can everyone do a better job? Can TSA do a better job? Can we do a better job as we bring more air traffic controllers online and we get a brand new air traffic control system up and working so we have less delays and less cancellations? Yes. Those things, can our airlines maybe do a better job on their end? But in the end, it's my responsibility to behave well. I can't offload that to anybody else. It's me. And how am I going to behave? How I'm going to have my kids behave as we travel together. How I dress, I can't blame on anybody else. I made that choice this morning when I came to the airport. So that's just the ask. And I think I'm not trying to put a blame on anybody. I'm just asking us all to be better and do better. And then we'll all have a more pleasant experience. And it's no one has to, again, I can't fine you if you don't comply. I'm not looking to do that. But I'm asking, let's all do this as better Americans. That's it.
Isn't that remarkable? He won't shut the fuck up about how people dress on a plane, as though he has any purview over that whatsoever. She asked, what are you doing immediately on your end to help with the air travel experience? And he brought it back around. In the end, it's my responsibility to behave. He's put it on the individual responsibility. I can't offload that to anybody else. How I dress, I can't blame on anybody else. No one who is so focused on the dress code aboard a plane. You would hope it wouldn't be the Secretary of Transportation of these United States. You would hope it would be like an airline organization. It's like, hey, everybody, let's bring back suits and ties on airplanes as space has been cramped further and further and further in, where you have less room to move your legs. Dress out in layers where you're hot and you can't breathe because there's not enough air. It's too hot and you're cramped in next to a couple 300-pounders on the plane. Yeah, make sure you're wearing a suit. That'll be great. This is what happens when you put wildly wealthy people in charge of things. Stupid people and also wildly wealthy people. Like, when's the last time Sean Duffy, maybe he's flown coach since becoming Secretary of Transportation. He probably flies aboard government airplanes, though. When's the last time before that he flew anything other than first class? The millionaire Fox News host and reality TV star from decades ago. The millionaire. The multi-millionaire. Anyway, what do you think? I invite you to this conversation. We need responsible people, capable people in charge of very important posts. And let me tell you, among the cabinet positions, Secretary of Transportation is among one of the most important. Marjorie Taylor Greene does not care about the victims. She does not care about justice. She does not care about the accountability of rich, powerful people. Because if she did, she would do the thing she so passionately claimed she would do. Oh, what a difference a resignation makes. Remember back in the beginning of September when Marjorie Taylor Greene was flanked by Epstein's victims and other members of Congress? There was this press conference out in front of the Capitol where Marjorie Taylor Greene made the promise with passion in her voice, with aggression in her tone, that, listen, I know a lot of people are asking these victims behind me that why aren't you just naming the names? Well, they would be buried by lawsuits and intimidation, and that they've been through too much. But give me the names, said Marjorie Taylor Greene. Give them to me. I'll go on the floor of the House right now and name names. Because after all, she doesn't say this, but this is true. She's covered by the speech and debate clause. She cannot be convicted of the things she says. It's ultimately like immunity for a Congress member. She says, I will do it. I have passion in me. And she finishes it with just gusto and anger, righteous indignation. That was September. Oh, what a difference a few months and a resignation from Congress makes. Yesterday, she was on the steps of the Capitol, but maybe 300 feet from where she made the statement I'm going to play for you later, and talking to Ryan Nobles. I don't know if he's with CNN anymore or CBS or somewhere. And he's asking her about releasing the files and the names. And her tune is a little different than it was in September.
I support all the lists being released. I want to see Epstein's list. I want to see the list of the sexual misconduct slush fund. You know, members of Congress and senators that taxpayer money was used to pay out their victims. I want to see all the list.
Including the Gates report.
If they're going to release one, release them all.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, do you, Marjorie? You support all the lists being released? You want to see the list released? What happened to that energy you brought back in September that I'm going to remind the world of now, when you were so righteous, volunteering as tribute, I guess, to go out there and name the names on the floor of the House of Representatives, taking advantage of your special congressional immunity when given a speech? What happened to that? Watch this.
As you're questioning, why can't they just name the names? What you don't realize is they just told their stories of being raped and being abused, being victimized, being manipulated, being coerced, and basically held in a prison of captivity of sexual abuse while they were young teenagers and extremely young, vulnerable women. And in Jeffrey Epstein's home and the places they went with him, they saw the most powerful people in the world in his pictures, and they saw him with those people. Can you imagine how terrifying it would be to name names like that? These are some of the richest, most powerful people in the world that could sue these women into poverty and homelessness. Yeah, it's a scary thing to name names, but I will tell you, I'm not afraid to name names. And so if they want to give me a list, I will walk in that Capitol on the House floor and I'll say every damn name that abused these women. I can do that for them, and I'd be proud to do it. Now, another thing, this is not about politics, and this is a boiling point in American history where the American people, just like Roe just said, there's become two Americas. There's the America for the rich and the powerful and the elite, where they never face any struggles or problems and never experience what real America goes through. And then there's forgotten America that faces all the problems and deals with all the issues and never gets justice for being sexually assaulted and raped by a monster.
Man, it would have been great if it had been true. All of that is fantastic, if it were true. You see, this is what I'm talking about with Marjorie Taylor Greene and so many people who are giving her the benefit of the doubt, acting as though this is a genuine transformation on the part of Margie. That this is a noble endeavor, a change of heart. It's a rebrand. She's different now. No, she's not. Because if she really cared, like she finished there, and when there's forgotten America that faces all the problems and deals with all the issues and never gets justice for being sexually assaulted and raped by a monster, she was passionate, emotional. If all of that was still true, she would march onto that floor. She doesn't leave until January 5th or 6th of next year, by the way. She has months to make it to the floor of the House of Representatives, covered by her makeshift congressional immunity, to make the statement, to name the names. You can do it, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Instead, you're out there playing footsie with journalists. Oh, I want to see them released. That would be great. Oh, yeah, release them all. Release all the names. You have it within your power, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Or were you lying, flanked by the victims of sexual violence? Were you being a liar? Was that a political grandstand moment for the cameras? Were you a desperate attention-seeking clout chaser because there was a microphone near you? Oh, I can smell it. Where's the microphone? I gotta find it. Oh, good, there's cameras too. Oh, it's just a beautiful moment for me. Is that what it was? Because that's what it seems like it was. I could be proven wrong, though, Marjorie Taylor Greene. You could absolutely make it to the floor. Or are you afraid of political retribution? After all, you've quit. You have no interest in politics anymore. What's it matter? What future political career will be dinged, if you will? You see, Marjorie Taylor Greene is a liar. Marjorie Taylor Greene does not care about the victims. She does not care about justice. She does not care about the accountability of rich, powerful people. Because if she did, she would do the thing she so passionately claimed she would do. So for all of you who are giving her the benefit of the doubt that is unwarranted, unjustified, I would hope that you would check yourself. If you're not one of them, fantastic. It means you're clear thinking, clear-eyed about the threats that face us. And she is still a threat that faces us. Just because she's got tension with Donald Trump at this moment doesn't mean she's an ally. It doesn't mean she's on the right side of history. It doesn't mean she's not a white supremacist. It doesn't mean she's not a troll in human form, a Neanderthal amongst us. Anyway, what do you think? Let's have a conversation in the comments. Tell me how I'm wrong. Make the case to me how I'm wrong.
We're learning President Trump is planning to unveil a new health care proposal. And at this point, we're still waiting to know exactly what's in it. We're getting breaking news while I'm talking to you. I have learned that the White House has postponed its expected unveiling of this new health care proposal.
So yesterday, I'm glad I'm finishing with this story. Yesterday, one of the crazy, it's so on brand for the Trump era that this took place yesterday, because we know how many times you've heard Donald Trump talk about in about 2 weeks, we're going to repeal and replace Obamacare, and we got a great plan. He's been saying the repeal and replace thing since 2016, maybe 2015. He's been talking about 2 weeks, I'll have you my comprehensive restructuring of the American healthcare system for years and years and years, nearly 10 years. So when they announced that they were going to have this meeting or this announcement, this press conference to roll out the new plan that's been developed, this is what happened. Stupid. This is what happened on CNN.
We're learning President Trump is planning to unveil a new health care proposal. And at this point, we're still waiting to know exactly what's in it. But we're told it could include a temporary extension of the Enhanced Affordable Care Act subsidies, which are due to expire at the end of the year. They were at the center of the government shutdown. However, the subsidies could come with some fresh guardrails that could include new income limits and a requirement that everyone pay some form of a premium. Now, we should note that if the subsidies do expire, millions of Americans are expected to see their premiums more than double next year. Zach Cooper is joining us now. He's a professor of health policy at Yale University. Zach, thanks for being here. As I noted, we are very much still waiting for specifics here. I'm sorry, this has actually been, sorry, Zach, we're getting breaking news while I'm talking to you. I have learned that the White House has postponed its expected unveiling of this new health care proposal. It was expected to be unveiled today. We'll learn more, hopefully, about that in the coming moments. But again, this is postponed, but we can talk about the ideas here.
Reading from the prompter, we're learning President Trump is planning to unveil a new health care proposal. Well, this just in, that meeting has been canceled with no reason given. The guests they had there to talk about it. Sorry, there's nothing we can say to you because Donald Trump is doing the same shit he's done for nearly a decade, pulling out the rug. This is like a Peanuts cartoon. Is it Lucy that pulls back the football as Charlie Brown goes to kick it? Like, when are they going to learn that Donald Trump doesn't have a plan? Mike Johnson doesn't have a plan. There's no executable strategy to remove Obamacare as a healthcare option. The Affordable Care Act. They want to strip away the subsidy. Now maybe they're going to leave it because they realize, oh shit, we already really fucked ourselves electorally after what we just witnessed with the Virginia election and the New Jersey election and the California election and the election of Zohran Mamdani in New York City. We really, really fucked it up. So we don't want to yank healthcare away from millions, maybe tens of millions of people. We don't want to cause, well, we do want it, but we don't want to lose our position in the government. And if that's what would happen if we double or triple or quadruple healthcare premiums in this country. Caroline Leavitt was asked about this. So beautiful. What great moments for these ghouls who really have no plan, no plot. And you can see it in the desperation and the word salad and the nonsense that they say. I'm going to play Caroline Leavitt here, and then I'm going to play you a very quick Washington Post mashup of Donald Trump saying 2 weeks and repeal and replace and all of the buzzwords to push you off of actually demanding something gets done to better the healthcare situation in the United States. First, though, paid liar, Caroline Leavitt.
Jake?
If the president does announce a proposal to cut healthcare costs, will that include the extension of the welfare subsidy?
I know there's been a lot of reporting on this from yourself as well, Jake, over the last few days. I will tell you that healthcare is a topic of discussion that's happening very frequently and robustly inside the West Wing right now. The president's very much involved in these talks, and he's very focused on unveiling a healthcare proposal that will fix the system and will bring down costs for consumers. As for the details of those discussions, I'll let the president speak for himself. As you all know, sometimes you report things and then President Trump comes out with an announcement, and those things are not always true from what you hear from sources inside the building. So I'll let the president speak for himself.
Wait. You were going to roll out the plan, and then you canceled the rollout of the plan. You can't say that the topic of discussion that is happening very frequently and robustly inside the West Wing right now, you've had a decade. It's not like Donald Trump just got the job, has had no time to think about it. They've had a plan getting ready to be released for 2 weeks. And the media, to their credit in some cases, has been on top of this, putting together beautiful mashups just like this that start, by the way, in 2016 and end at the end of 2020. This is the span of just his first term.
I will ask Congress to convene a special session so we can repeal and replace. And it will be such an honor for me, for you, and for everybody in this country. As soon as our secretary is approved and gets into the office, we'll be filing a plan. We have a really terrific, I believe, healthcare plan coming out. We're going to have a healthcare plan that's going to be second to none. It's going to be great. As I never said, repeal it and replace it within 64 days. I have a long time. It's been very much misreported that we failed with healthcare. We haven't failed. We're negotiating, and we continue to negotiate. We have 2 plans coming out in a very short period of time. We're going to come up with a healthcare plan. We're not going to vote on it until after the election. The plan is coming out over the next 4 weeks. We're going to produce phenomenal healthcare, and we already have the concept of the plan. We'll be announcing that in about 2 months. Maybe less. We have a great plan coming out. It's going to be if we can take back the House. We're signing a health care plan within 2 weeks, a full and complete health care plan. We're going to be doing a very inclusive health care plan. I'll be signing it sometime very soon. It might be Sunday, but it's going to be very soon. We're going to be introducing a tremendous health care plan sometime hopefully prior to the end of the month. It's just about completed now.
And if that's not enough, if that's not communicating to you, let me bring you, that's a time machine, right? Or a dream sequence? I don't know. But let's go back in time. If you remember, there was an interview that really made a lot of headlines between Chris Wallace when he was still at Fox News and Donald Trump out on the patio of the White House. This took place in July of 2020. You know it's July of 2020 because Donald Trump is just suffering from flop sweat. He's just a glazy face, just a gross freak. And they're talking specifically about healthcare in this clip. If this does not show that Donald Trump does not have a plan, he doesn't have a concept of a plan, he doesn't have a pre-plan of a concept of a plan, there's nothing there. It's empty fucking space between his 2 ears.
I want to talk to you about Obamacare. Since the pandemic hit, millions of people have lost their jobs and thereby lost their health insurance, and almost 500,000 have signed up for Obamacare. Your administration just announced that you're signing on to a lawsuit to overturn Obamacare.
And replace it.
Why does it make sense to overturn Obamacare, with which people now are relying on? Democrats are going to say the man who's wanted to kill Obamacare is going to take away the protection for pre-existing conditions.
First of all, we got rid of the individual mandate. Pre-existing conditions will always be taken care of by me and Republicans, 100%.
But you've been in office 3.5 years. You don't have a plan.
Well, we haven't had, excuse me, you heard me yesterday. We're signing a health care plan within 2 weeks, a full and complete health care plan that the Supreme Court decision on DACA gave me the right to do. So we're going to sign an immigration plan, a health care plan, and various other plans. And nobody will have done what I'm doing in the next 4 weeks. The Supreme Court gave the President of the United States powers that nobody thought the President had by doing what they did, their decision on DACA. And DACA is going to be taken care of also. But we're getting rid of it because we're going to replace it with something much better. But we got rid of already, which was most of Obamacare, the individual mandate. And that I've already won on. And we won also on the Supreme Court. But the decision by the Supreme Court on DACA allows me to do things on immigration, on health care, on other things that we've never done before. And you're going to find it to be a very exciting 2 weeks.
You heard that. July of 2020. We're signing a healthcare plan within 2 weeks. Listen, if there was ever a time for Donald Trump to capitalize on his majority, his running the executive branch of the government, 1/3 of the United States government is under Donald Trump's control. 2/3 actually, because he actually has Mike Johnson under his thumb. He has the Senate and the House. They could pass this type of legislation, groundbreaking, earth-shattering, narrative-altering legislation to change healthcare in this country. But instead, it's a promise of 2 weeks. Pay your healthcare premium with Donald Trump's promise of 2 weeks, and let me know how that goes for you. These people are not capable, not qualified. I'm not talking about that. That's obvious. They're not capable of running the country. We have important business to be conducted to better the lives of Americans. Some desperate, poor people who need health care, not to be removed from the roles of Medicaid, Medicare, but to be bolstered in their pursuit of health and happiness and preservation of their life. And Donald Trump is not interested in that, because if you have to pay for your health care, if you don't have billions of dollars or millions and millions of dollars, you're not a priority. And that's just inarguable. That is the self-evident statement with which I will end this video and invite your participation in this conversation. We can talk about it in the comments below the video. You can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com. If you want to help support this work, if you want to help me produce these videos and reach millions of people, you can do that for $2 a month. What a deal. If you're not on a fixed income, if you're not one of the people I'm talking about so often to try to improve the lives of, $2 a month, become a channel member on YouTube, or go over to patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. I love and appreciate you very much. Thanks for joining me today. I'll see you next time. Be genuine and take care of one another.